All right, hello everyone. Just going to cover today in our demo what we'll be doing for our lab 2. So you see here we've got our robot. This is the MEC252 Cell 1. So we can now use this in order to be able to see parts. And so in today's lab we're going to set up, create a camera program that utilizes the camera attached to the robot. So you can see here we've got the camera. This would be similar to our, I think it's a Sony XC56. It's just a black-white monochrome. Well, it's not monochrome, it's grayscale, but camera that's less than 1 megapixel in resolution. But it's kind of a workhorse camera that is often used in FANUC IR vision. Okay, so let's go ahead and review how to set up the camera. So I'm going to zoom back out a little bit, slide this over. And so we come up here to Robot, and we've got 3 different options. We can either use the Internet Explorer, the Google Chrome, or the web browser. I'm just going to go ahead and use Internet Explorer, and that'll bring up a screen similar to this here. Okay, and now if we were in the lab, this would look different. We would have to do a few things to configure the computer to be able to talk to the robot by being on the same network. And then the web browser for the robot would also look a little bit different. It looks more like what you have in your book. But a lot of the things are the same between the two, just a little bit different interface, different look to it. So we'd come over here to the left here at IR Vision. We select that, and we've got IR Vision set up. Now you see that's also got some other additional information here that could be useful, some tutorials or information for beginners. If you get a chance to go through it, I think that might be quite helpful. But we'll come over here to this IR Vision setup, select that. Let me expand this out. Now you'll see down here at the bottom, it has a create button. Since there isn't anything, we don't have anything created on this yet, it's going to walk us through to creating a program for the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and call this camera 1. And then in my comments, I'm just going to say lab 1 setup. Setup. And we're using a 2D camera. Okay? So we'll keep that one selected and then just go ahead and select OK. Now with this camera 1 highlighted, there's more that we need to do to configure that camera. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Edit. And that'll bring us to this screen that is a little bit more similar to what you have in your book. Again, this is a little bit more updated, but for our camera, I'm going to go ahead and select this first one. This is the camera that is connected to my port 1 of my robot. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Okay, now we can see the image down here, and then robot mounted camera. So this particular camera, if you remember, let me just go back to this screen. You can see here where the robot or the camera is mounted to the robot, meaning the camera is going to move along with the robot. And that's going to be important for how the system decides to use that camera. We can also have a camera that would be fixed, meaning that it doesn't move with the robot. So think of it as something that maybe was secured to the table. We maybe have some kind of a framework above the table with the camera mounted to it. Okay, so going back to our setup screen, we're going to select this as yes, that the camera is mounted to the robot. And then the robot holding the camera, it's this robot. So you can have, in case you had a multiple robot system, we have this particular robot that's holding it. And we only have that as the option since we don't have any other robots connected to this controller. Okay. And then group 1, which would be the motion group for the robot. Our exposure time is something that if we were in the actual lab, this is something that we would play around with. It doesn't really affect us so much at this stage as it would later on, but being able to adjust the exposure time allows how much light is absorbed into that sensor as the image is registered. So the higher that value is, the more light it absorbs and the whiter our image will appear. The less time, the less amount of light that is allowed to absorb into that image, and the darker our image will appear. Here, LED type, that's for the lighting source, and so for now we're just going to say none. We don't have a lighting source. And then our calibration. So this is which type of calibration we want to use. We're going to go ahead and select a grid calibration, pattern calibration. So once we've selected all of those, we're going to go ahead and say save. So now we have our camera set up for our robot. So that wraps up our Lab 2 in setting up our camera for IR vision. As you'll see, this becomes an essential process to anything that we want to do in the IR vision system.